And hello, welcome to Legends of Water. It is Thursday, December 19th, and episode 6. And I'm still keeping, I'm still counting the briefings, 269, since the inception. This is truly the world's new water network, and there is a tremendous amount of excitement around that. I'll be discussing that in detail. Okay, a little bit of housekeeping, of course, the usual safe harbor statement, disclaimer for the Regulation D that is for accredited investors, and also Regulation A for crowdfunding. Water on demand for 2025. As you know, a merger was terminated by us. Now what? We're going to discuss this in great detail as a group shortly. So what I want to do first is I want to review what water on demand looks like going forward, and then we'll come back to the postmortem, shall we say. But I think it's good to focus on really what we're accomplishing and where we're going. So let's do that. A excerpt from our corporate presentation, which focuses on what water on demand is. So one of the great accomplishments of the merger effort that we had over the last 2 years was that we managed to create a company that all by itself is extremely powerful. And it is completely independent of OriginClear. It is obviously OriginClear has a major percentage of it, but it is its own company, and that's very, very important for the future. So it's the combination of three businesses. The first, of course, is Progressive Water Treatment. More than 25 years in industrial water treatment. We acquired them in, 9 years ago. And they had a big year in 2022. Now, let's take a look at this chart because it's updated for what's been happening. So we had a huge year in 2022, and that propelled our effort to really merge the company with, it made Progressive Water really the locomotive for the merger. We didn't expect it to maintain that because it was one giant power plant contract, $5 million all by itself. And really what happened was, over time, we found it hard to absorb, PWT found it hard to absorb that contract, and this kind of stepped on their ability to perform. Now, here's what's great. 2024 is not looking great because it was so distracting to finish that literally 2-year-old contract. The good news is we have several multi-million-dollar power plant contracts like this one. So I'm quite confident that 2025 and onward are dramatically under forecast, but for the time being, we'll leave it like that. Again, Progressive Water Treatment has tremendous strength in power plants, also chip fabrication, local to where they are. They actually have contracts with chip manufacturing companies and multiple power plants. The power plants are multi-million-dollar projects. They're really fantastic, but what we're learning is how to digest them, and that's really the challenge here. And what really sets Progressive Water Treatment aside is that it can build anything, do anything, and that's really its power. And of course, now it's expanded into the Sherman, Texas. Modular Water Systems was founded in 2018 by us around Dan Early, an acknowledged guru of the water industry, and patents, which I'll go over momentarily. Now, 22 revenue, here's what's interesting. We look at 22 revenue, it was huge. It was a huge jump from where it had been. 2018 was nothing. 2019 was still less than $500,000 for the whole year, all the way through 2021, when finally cash flow, the division became cash flow positive. But they had a huge jump in 2022. The good news is that they actually have maintained their climb up. This 2024 number is pretty close to how it's going to be, within $300,000 each way. But what it tells you really is that they have managed to maintain their growth. And this is really to the credit of Dan Early, because he has the vision of a scalable business. He is building, these revenues are increasing with a tiny team, very few resources. It tells us if we do put resources behind it, it will blow up. And it's because it's highly standardized, it's highly scalable, a lot of exclusive basis of design sales. And here's what's interesting. Dan, for a while there, achieved more than $22 million in backlog quotations. Obviously, it's gone down since. He's been chewing into it and turning them into revenue. But what it means is that he has a tremendous amount of pent-up business that if we just give him some more resources, better inventory, financing, more staff, that kind of thing, he's really going to blow up even far more than this. So that he's a really, really bright point. And this is the patents that were licensed to Water on Demand Inc. worldwide, exclusive. and that remains important. And we've been over the pod design. I'm not going to get into it any further. The pump stations are very, very important. But let's take a look at water on demand capital. Now, why did we not develop water on demand sites when we developed this in 2020 and 2021? Well, mainly because we could not find the customer. Progressive Water and Modular Water were designed to respond to bids. But once a client goes to bid, he's figured out his financing. You're not there to fix his financing. What we had to do during the time that we were working so hard on this merger, one significant thing that was accomplished in 2024 was that Dan Early found a way to access companies at an early enough stage. And what that means is that two ways: getting to them directly, but more scalably through support networks, service networks. One alliance we have, for example, is with Enviro Maintenance. Another one is with Envirogen. Envirogen is a very large company, and these give us access to their clients, and they naturally want to upgrade their installed base. So it turned out that they were the natural channel partner to develop the water on demand deals. So now we're finally talking to real customers, and we're really bidding them in as I speak. So they are being negotiated. We have these deals floating now, very, very interesting deals. Now, why is this so important? Water on demand is a recurring profit model. It is water as a service, which means at least 10 times, possibly as high as 19 times the initial profits over the period of 20 years. Now, what it is finally in the end, that is subject to experimentation, to finding out how it works. We for sure know that after you've paid for the machine and you've paid for all the service, all of the contingencies, you're still many multiples more than the initial profits. And that, I believe, is the future of the water industry. Now, we have raised the money with accredited investors. That remains the case. And we really rely on the accredited investors. And by the way, we are expecting to extend this to unaccredited investors. That's something, this is kind of a scoop, that we're planning to actually open up the fund to the unaccredited investor, just like Grant Cardone enables real estate people, investors to come in even if they're not accredited. And I think that's really important for a democratic type arrangement. It can't just be accredited investors, right? So we're working with everyday investors. Fine. We need the everyday investor in order to prove the model. Again, another major achievement in 2024 was we got to know Wall Street really, really well. And we met with all kinds of funds and CFO candidates and so forth. And one thing we learned was that you have to have a proven, stable model. Wall Street thinks of this as being like the solar power purchase agreement, where those solar panels go on your roof, and the solar panels don't belong to you. They belong to the company doing the deal with you, and it generates, and you pay the company, not the utility, for your power. Okay, so they understand the PPA model. But one thing that was made very clear to us is you got to have a very stable PPA model, in this case, WPA, Water Purchase Agreement, in order for this thing to work. Because if you don't, you can't do these secured capital raises with the institutions. So it's absolutely essential that we work with the investors, we reward the investors. The everyday investor is our strength, and frankly, it's the only way it goes forward. Okay. And as we know, also what happened in 2024, Water on Demand was the original company that was going to merge, and we added PWT and MWS to create a real triple threat. And in this model, as I was saying, local water companies, service companies handle support, and it's a potential revenue boost for acquisitions. Now, I will talk about acquisitions shortly, but let's wrap things up because I want to talk a little bit about the charts. So this reflects more like reality. The revenue, to be very frank, the merger was absorbing so much working capital and was really a distraction from a bandwidth and a financial point of view. And as a result, we really tended to strangle the operating units. Nevertheless, we're still above what was the pre-2022 level. And what's great is that MWS continues to grow, which is great news. So I'm looking here, 2024, 23, that this That's a bit high. They're actually below that, but that's fine. They're on track. So that is good news. Now, in terms of profitability, profitable along on the gross profit, and we started to be net profitable in 22 and 23. In 2024, we went negative again, and that again reflects the need for working capital to boost things. Now, why does it go so deep after that? And that really is because we intend to spend deeply in 2025 to reinforce these companies, and we're willing to make that investment. Revenue contribution, again, PWT, the blue is dominant, but notice how really MWS is coming strongly into view. Let me just talk briefly about acquisitions. Acquisitions remain vital for us. I'm not charting them right now because we need to understand the capital picture in 2025 and onward, because now that Water Demand is private, we're going to have to rely much more on actual capital because we don't have a trading public stock. Nevertheless, we are confident. I was talking with the one acquisition that we have already under letter of intent, and he is more than eager to carry on and to be part of the team. So we have a lot of willingness here, and the acquisitions will proceed. The schedule, however, I'm not forecasting it at this time, but it's important. Okay, now let's take a look at Modular Water Systems and take a look at their work. So I'm going to flip over now to the LinkedIn page that is maintained by Modular Water Systems. And the excellent Michael Gallagher does a great job of maintaining this site. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go back in time to the bottom of this page, and we'll just work our way. And I just want to share with you some of the cool stuff that they do because it's really underrated. So the classic Modular Water System module looks like this. This is the stuff inside it. And this has now become the Avera Treat, which is this unit is designed to go underground. Avera Skid is on a skid. Avera Treat goes underground. And it's fully engineered and permit ready. So these are some of the points that are so important about modular water. Number one, it's actually less expensive. Number two, it's ready to go. The box, just drop it in and run it. We now have the manufacturing down to 14 weeks or less, which is a little known fact. And then days, or certainly weeks, but even days to get it commissioned. Very energy efficient, single tank, and we're able to reuse and recycle water on site. This to me is really, it's a quiet revolution. And that's what it looks like as it's about to go into the ground. So let's take a look here at a pump station, which is a similar concept. Now these pump stations basically are a pump with some pipes, and but the sheath is what's so special because we have a 100-year service life, high corrosion resistance, and it's all, again, single point of delivery of package. All right. More of the same. This is the Avera Treat once it's underground. Give you a sense of the reason why people take the Avera Treat. And this is a pump station that's going underground. And that shows how it's built. Beautiful, beautiful engineering. Coming up further here, we're, by the way, Buy American Act compliant. Obviously, where a pump or whatever is built in China only, it is what it is. But these systems are built here in America. These are U.S. factories, and we're very happy to do that. Now, guess what? If your fridge can be monitored remotely, why not your wastewater station? And sure enough, we have real-time access. This is key to water as a service. You cannot run a remote service-based pay per gallon if the thing can't be monitored remotely. This Avera box, that's our term for the equipment building, houses everything. It's all in one, and it's beautiful work being done here. Patrick Spencer says he's the vice president of operations management. Nice big graphic user interface screen, shows a commitment to user experience. Great stuff. Now you're not going to run Call of Duty on it, but you can for sure run a water installation. Can you believe that in this century we actually still build concrete and steel facilities in a hole in the field? Why not just build it like a mobile home, truck it on site, and drop it in? And that's what we do. Here's a here's a video that I think is well worth going over again. That's from that interview that I had back in November on at the Nasdaq. Let's take a look.
Briefly about water main breaks, and there's one every 2 minutes. Is that in the United States?
It's ridiculous. And you know, 8 years ago, really almost 10 years ago now, I was preaching the fact that we got an overloaded infrastructure. It's rotten and old.
Sure.
What's the solution? Well, we can't spend $1 trillion apparently. So what we got to do is unburden it and have businesses do their own. I began that literally in 2016, and now it's a reality. The world has understood that if we don't do that, we're going to be swamped in sewage.
And indeed, we were talking in that video about a sewage main break every other minute, which is crazy. And here is an installation, which was a high school, and they actually had their own wastewater treatment system, but we went ahead and solved the problem, and they have it now for many years to come. Let's take a look at this cool setup here. The Northview High School in Escambia County, Florida. $28,000 gallons per day. I want to point out, you see this setup here. If you know major wastewater plants at the municipal level, you see these gangways and these enormous structures, much bigger, giant. And what is the brilliance of Dan Early is he's managed to miniaturize these down. So you still have the gangways, you still have the industrial grade equipment, etc., but it's been reduced in size. This is the wastewater treatment plant of the future. So that's super cool. And then of course this is the materials. I won't get into that further. This is some of the problem stuff that we replace. We have how integrated film activated sludge works. But basically it works by having beneficial bacteria attach themselves to a film, a biofilm, and then the water goes over that film and gets cleaned up by the bacteria, the beneficial bacteria. And we're getting to the closer to the present here. Here is a project, beautiful setup here that was done by Modular Water. Again, that's a bit technical, but you know, this is some beautiful stuff. Look at that plastic. That is some beautifully engineered plastic. Tom Marchicello did a great piece about the role of water in revolutionary data center cooling. By the way, we are involved in that business, and so we're involved with, for example, chip fabrication right now. And this is super cool. I was so psyched when I saw it. I went, wait a minute, what is this? This is a power plant. And so this is Peach Bottom Power Plant, which is operated by Constellation Energy in Pennsylvania. It's on an island, and or part of it's on an island anyway. But the point is that they have their own setup. On the left-hand side, you see again that intake area. The middle one is the processing area, and the far right here, you can hardly see it, is the equipment box, the Avera box. So fully set up. And this handles all of what we call the black water. That nuclear plant is not dependent upon the municipality at all. We're very proud of this project just being completed now. We're just coming to the end here, and sure enough, land development requires all kinds of tank farms. We do a single tank, and it's underground and very neat, and that is the future. So that is kind of the picture of the work that Modular Water Systems does. And I'm so proud of what they do, and they are blowing it up, as you can tell. Okay, Well, OriginClear managers, I am inviting you to the freewheeling discussion.
And here we are.
So, um, what I wanted to do, obviously, I was walking through a lot of what's going on, but I really wanted to reserve for the last a discussion of this merger. Okay, and obviously, the full story cannot be told because the full story is one that really is it would implicate a certain bureaucracy that we don't want to implicate. But here's the story. We, with the help of our investors, we were rolling along. We had, as Ken likes to say, we had an angel on our shoulders, and we've had that all along. And we were triumphing over every single delay and problem and this and that was occurring. And then we arrived.
It was always a weekly disaster. Oh, we got to put out a fire, put out a fire, put out a fire. Right. It was stressful.
But we were rolling. We were rolling. And so then we arrive into November. And there were some critical deadlines that had to be met by our regulator. Again, I'm not going to name the regulator by name, but those dates were missed. And we're like, huh, what? And I then took a look at the process and go, this merger is not going to happen in March. And if the merger happens in March of 2025, then we don't want to do it because we will literally, the deals we will have to do to make it to March 2025 will leave us completely, it will destroy the existing investors, completely cram them. And we do not like the idea of cramming people down. That's BS. We've always been very attentive to the health of our shareholders. In fact, as chairman, but all of us share this, but as chairman, I have a duty to maintain shareholder value. We're like, you know what? Stop now. We have a company. I just went through a whole outline of how we are a strong company. And there's fascinating things happening where in Texas especially, I can tell you without getting into the details that today I was talking to an extraordinary multi-billion-dollar project that's desperate for resources in Texas. Texas is not only in a very drought affected, but they have a lot of money tied up in water-intensive industries like chip fabs, like power plants, like oil and gas, that are almost unsolvable. And so we're starting to get all this attention because we are so dynamic and we have such great word of mouth. Progressive Water Treatment does not do a lot of marketing. AJ will attest to that. But they managed to get these huge contracts with amazing, I can't name them by name because it's not appropriate, but these are multi-million-dollar contracts with power plants. They get them because of word of mouth. So what I'm saying is the mere fact that we have a strong, high-integrity group is attracting a lot of attention. And what we managed to do, we've worked ridiculously hard since Thanksgiving to replan the future of the company. And I went up to Pittsburgh to hang out with Ken and AJ, and well, the meals were great. The discussions were intense, but what we did manage to come away with, like, you know what?
We're loud.
Is actually workable. Yeah. Ken, you're gonna make a comment. Go ahead.
They were loud.
We know how to do loud.
They were loud.
Yep. So I came away though we had a plan. And then we've been executing on that plan ever since. It's been, again, nonstop. And the other night I was up from 1 a.m. to 3:30 a.m. because I was on India time. But we have got an expansion plan that is killer. What do we have to do now? We're no longer distracted by a deal. I'm so relieved. I'm actually feeling more and more relaxed as the days go by. I'm like, oh my God, because this thing was like this. We had to
the capital and energy consumption. When you stop, you're like, oh my, it feels, life feels normal again. You're not living by, the edict of a bureaucracy. What I was most enamored with after our very intense discussion is that we sat there, the three of us, and worked through all of the permutations. And we're able to come from very different places,
Mhm.
but we all arrived at the same conclusions, right? That
Yep.
this was the path, this was the way to go. Even though we started out at different locations, we ended up in the same place. And I think that that's a tremendous strength of ours.
Well, you look at the team, and in fact, I was just mentioning, without mentioning specifics, that the attention we're getting literally this week from a particular situation where involving Texas at the highest levels is that part of it is the team. They are looking at the team. It's not okay. Anybody can have machines and equipment, but the fact that we are we're such great implementers, survivors, we're effective, and we're able to drive through and have a great reputation from it. That's the basis for what we do.
Creativity, resilience, scrappiness, kind of the anti-corporate, right? We basically we started with nothing. We started with an idea, and we're able to take this through this massive bureaucratic thing and actually catch the eye of people that run billion-dollar companies.
And this particular encounter that I try to talk about parenthetically here, we're asked, to value the design and build systems that we have, and okay, that's great, that's great. And then there's water on demand, but it's not, we don't have projects yet. And this particular party said, "Oh my God, no, that's the future. That's the most important part." And they were like, the water industry has got to go to water as a service. What is so important about what we do is that a water company cannot jump to the institutional level without raising. Let me give you an example. We were recruiting a CFO. We'll be announcing that soon, but we were recruiting a CFO, and one of them that we met had just done another blank check thing that fell apart with One Energy. One Energy raised $100 million to do solar power purchase agreements.
Yep.
They raised it institutionally. That's very hard to do in water. Very hard. So there's a bunch of water companies at this level. They can't get the capital. And then the big water guys don't care. They're still got the old model. They don't really do water as a service. Only a couple do. And something I didn't mention in my review, which I should have, which is that the two comparable companies in our space, Seven Seas Water and Cambrian Innovation, both exited at $500 million valuations. Not all of it's disclosed, so this is an approximation, but there's only two. They
Right.
made it out, right? So they're the exceptions. So what
And the
about
market they serve is far thinner. Yeah, it's Bergdorf Goodman versus Walmart. Who has a bigger market cap?
that's very well
Who has a
because Ken, there's a vastly greater the base of the pyramid. You can take the top stuff, which there's great companies out there like Gradient, but Gradient doesn't even do water as a service. Why?
No.
Because PepsiCo doesn't need it, right?
Right.
But at the very base level, you have all these water companies. They can't jump up to water as a service. They don't have the capital. We have that resource in our everyday investors. Our Main Street investors are they're the glue that enable us to make water as a service work. And this particular party was discussing a multi-billion-dollar requirement at the highest levels in Texas today. I was blown away. He was saying, you know what? Don't discount water as a service. This is what we need. And so
maybe that'll be next month's briefing.
well, I certainly hope so. But I'm not promising anything, but I'm using it as an illustration of
Maybe.
right, of course. But when we talk about this, people who are involved in solving massive water challenges in states like Texas or California, they're like, oh my God, this is key because they need the recurring revenue to make the thing work financially.
The equipment was almost a given. It was the water as a service that was like, no, that's the thing.
Yeah.
That the well-established, highly successful, rapidly growing equipment install, build, sell thing they liked. The thing that is not even developed yet is what they loved.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And that, again, we weren't wrong. We were really early.
Yes. Now, when you're early, the key is to survive until you're,
Till the world catches up to you.
all startups are early by definition, right? It's
Right,
otherwise, if you're not early, then you're like, I'm doing another Amazon business. Woo, you
right.
know. But if you're early, you're doing a 0 to a 1 versus a 1 to a 2, right? So you're early, and there's a lot of barriers. So just to recap, what I take from all this is number one is that we did build a company here that I think looks it really. I was doing all the slides. I'm looking at a good company in here, and I'm presenting the slides. Secondly, that we did manage to figure out the water on demand business model, which was not solved in November 2022. That's one of the reasons why we decided let's go for this merger because we didn't have the business model worked out yet. The guys on the ground had not figured out how to get the deal flow. In the meantime, in 2024 is when they did. Literally a year after we started the merger efforts, they figured out how to get to it. So there's that. So we managed to
And the capital from the capital that would have been obtained through a successful merger would have helped us, rapidly accelerate that, right? So it was kind of like get the capital and build it and they will come. So
You're so right, and also the acquisition. So there were good reasons to do the merger, but what happened was, it. Look, I had a career in the merchant marine. I was a ship captain, and all your plans go forward, everything's great, and then all of a sudden, like, whoops, there is a major storm, a hurricane. You gotta deal with it. You gotta deal with it. In this case, the timeline just became really, really, really untenable. And it was I can tell you, it's probably the hardest decision I've made in my life was a decision to pull the plug on what so much effort I got into. But in the end, I think that we're a better, more proven business. By the way, one of the important things that we proved during that period, AJ, you worked out how to scalably raise money through crowdfunding with a sidecar of accredited, right?
Absolutely. I mean, there's been a lot of really really good advancements, and that's one of the things that when we were talking when you were in Pittsburgh, is it's very easy to look at the chain of events and feel some exasperation or some disappointment or a lot of disappointment in terms of the potential of what could have been, right? But when I look back over the last couple years of operation since the mergers happened, there's still been so much positive things that have happened. There's so much business development that's happened. There's so many things that have happened on a manufacturing level within both Progressive Water and in Modular Water Systems. There's been a lot of consolidations of manufacturing over at Modular Water. PWT just moved into a new facility a couple months ago. I mean, there's a lot of really, really solid business development that's happened. And what's exciting now is being able to give that more attention because, as you mentioned, the merger was not just a massive capital expense. It was a massive time expense. A lot of executive attention had to go into the merger constantly to be able to keep it on track and go. And one of the things that I'm most excited about in realizing all of this bandwidth that has now magically appeared again is that we can turn our attention back to rapidly accelerating the positions of our operating divisions and of water on demand capital. And we are you can see these eyes are bloodshot for a reason. We haven't been sleeping a whole lot because we've been going like gangbusters to get everything up and running for water on demand as its own as its own entity, which in and of itself is a massive accomplishment, right? Like let's not be afraid to take the victory lap here, guys, right? OriginClear has developed acquired PWT, developed MWS, and developed water on demand capital, and now it's water on demand as a company on its own, profitable, already
nice and
ready
clean,
and good
right?
to go.
Right.
It's a massive accomplishment. But
And I think,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. So, and I don't want to, um, probably not get too much into it here, but I do want to our investors who allowed this to happen. Part of the reason that this was a hard choice is we were this close and we could have made it, but any choice that would have left you guys any, in any position other than desirable was simply not acceptable.
Right. Well, it's because that's the cynicism of Wall Street is that they're like,
Yeah,
oh
they were like, "Well, it's not a problem." I'm like, "Yes, it
no,
is."
they said, well, you'll be good when they
Oh, yeah, we were going to be fine, right? Yeah,
yeah like it's going to be very, very tough for the shareholders, but management is going to be okay. And I'm like, no, management is with shareholders. That's just how it is, right? Now,
And
I
it was
want to,
like you said it in a foreign language. They were kind of, what? What do you mean?
I
Right?
know, literally when I came back and I
They
mentioned it
probably
back,
got used to hearing, okay.
no, they're like, really? Why would you?
Yeah.
The guy didn't get it. We're still friends. It's all good. Because
The other thing is that I don't want to discount this. We spent 4 days almost without sleep, a couple of hours here and there. But the primary function of what we did in these past 4 days was making sure that everybody that supported water on demand, that invested in water on demand, you are now where you were prior to. There's no, you're. I would say, in a way, you're as good as you were, but because of what we've got in front of us, you actually are a lot better. And I will go through that with you because it's an individual thing, but you are let's put it this way, I'd switch spots with you. You're you're in
well,
better you're in better shape than me, and you're in better shape than you were.
you'd be
What?
getting more sleep too.
Yeah.
Uh, that's 100%. Now, AJ, I just wanted to cover this very important point,
Mhm.
which was our ability to raise funds effectively.
Okay.
It means that we can look at Regulation A plus, which is a $75 million per year instrument that is directly, every share sold in Regulation A plus crowdfunding is a registered share. Therefore, you can then do a direct listing onto what? NASDAQ.
Right.
Let's all say
So
it at the same time.
NASDAQ. So we're not going to OTC. OTC is like, no, forget about it. This disaster. And we will have, by the way, one of these days we'll come back to OriginClear. But for now, OriginClear is the godfather of water demand. That's its job. It's focused on water demand. That's what it does all day long. And so we're not too worried about how it does. But meanwhile, we're maintaining it as a good public company. But from the now on, we take a good offering like water demand, and we present it through Regulation A to the world. And we've gotten so confident about this that now we're letting what was available only to the accredited investors, which is a piece of the fund, it goes down to the everyday investor. The logistics of that, I do not envy John Peraza, who has to actually pay out on these
The
things.
good news is it's not our problem.
Right.
Exactly. We could, finance, Prasad, Chris, John, they got this. But the point is that we're able to, we need to do this. We need to take this all the way down to the level because then we can look at large amounts of money raised. What are the NASDAQ requirements we're talking about? Either a $75 million market cap for the global or a $5 million shareholder equity, meaning the assets, net assets. That's for the equity version. Either one of those requires a very successful crowdfunding effort, the crowdfunding campaign, and that's what we've learned. I think that we're miles ahead on that.
Oh no, we
Also,
are. We absolutely are miles ahead on that. Sorry, Ken. I'll jump in here just to finish those points. We are miles ahead. And again, we've spent a lot of, Ken and I especially have, nuts and bolts this thing for the past year, and strategically, Riggs, you and I've had lots of discussions about how to kind of, shape these things into the best possible form. But really what it comes down to is there has to be a strength of an offering. And part of what is unique about what we're doing with water on demand is that, and again, I I want to make sure this comes across as genuine because it is, right? There, when we say that we could have, could have gotten taken care of, but we said no because it would have hurt the investors, absolutely mean that. There was absolutely uh, a massive uproar on our side when that was
please.
even floated to us, and when we say, look, we're trying to give opportunities for accredited investors, ahead of venture capital, ahead of these big institutions, and not only that, but allow the everyday regular investor to also to play a role in this, to also to be able to be part of this revolution. We mean that. That's something that we believe in at a core. is that we've seen so many companies successfully raise money through crowdfunding, and they do. And oftentimes they do really fun things or they do really good things, like Boxable is a good example, right? Raise an ungodly amount of money and it's a tiny home, right? And that's really neat, right? It's a really neat thing. Their manufacturing processes are cool. The whole concept's really neat, but
Doesn't change the world.
but what problem does that solve, right? We're actually able to solve a massive problem, and we've been talking about this a certain way for a long time. We've been talking a lot about the kind of water scarcity issues. We've been talking about the infrastructure breakdowns, and one of the things that kind of taking a step back and reevaluating all of this, and kind of taking another fresh look at everything is that if you really look at all the data, and I'm a data nerd, so I look at all the data, when you're talking about a 250 billion with a B dollar deficit on infrastructure spending to keep up with what's already breaking, and then you look at the fact that water usage due to reshoring, due to the CHIPS Act, due to a whole bunch of things, due to new energy consumption, it all takes power and it all takes water. And that water consumption is set to double in some sectors, if not triple in others, that is going to have a massive influx in new usage that an already failing infrastructure doesn't handle. And I was talking with Dan Early about this just yesterday, 2 days ago, and he goes, AJ, I wholeheartedly believe that new construction moving forward is going to require decentralized wastewater systems, right? Yeah. Because it's going to have to not add to the load. And I go, you know what, Dan, I think you're right. I think that someone's going to wake up and finally realize that they can't just keep, adding on to this monstrosity.
No more taps.
They have to start doing it on their own. And guys, and I mean this with all the force of my being. You can't have, and we've used these analogies, so bear with me, but you don't get robotaxi without having a Tesla. Right? Water as a service doesn't happen without a system that can actually do that has the adequate remote monitoring, that has the ability to scale at a pace and at a speed and at a quality level that's not going to be a detriment. Part of why the current industry sucks is because you have a 20-year lifespan on traditional wastewater systems. We're talking about 50-year warranted, 100-year actuals in terms of lifespans on our tanks.
20-year lifespan on the thing that's going to take 2 years to put in anyway.
Right. Well, you're already 5 years behind. These projects in municipalities take years to plan.
Exactly.
Right? You might as well start planning the replacement of that thing as soon as it goes in, because that's how long it's going to take to get it freaking replaced.
Your water rates go up every year, not because water itself becomes more expensive. You are forward financing the next major renovation repair, which is literally a couple of years away. Riggs and I spoke with a gentleman who has a fund with a lot of public workers, right? And he started, and he was a city manager, and he had a lot of water experience, on the ground water experience. He started kind of pitching us, and he was talking about the problem statement that we've been saying for years. So this is now a well-known thing at the grand scale, but no one has come up with a solution. Look, the problem has been that if you're a hammer, everything is a nail. So the industry has worked from an industry perspective to try to find innovative ways of essentially repeating the same behavior, hoping for a different result. Right. We were very far outside of that experience, which is why we were able to do something so radically different. Because when we were told, well, you can't do that, we said, why? And they went, well, I guess you can. It's like, yeah. Right. So, and look, to catch the notice of billion-dollar companies who fell in love with that part of the idea.
Yeah.
We have magnificent equipment. I think we have the best systems in the world that do what they do. But in a vacuum, they have tremendous value. But what we've laid over it, once implemented, is a game changer. And to take massive, massive capital, really smart people to instantly recognize that and find that the most compelling part was tremendous validation. I'm super excited about it.
Mm-hmm. And in fact, Ken, there's so much we can't say in this call, so much we can't say.
Sure.
So I really hope that our loyal shareholders, who some of you have been asking to speak to us, and believe me, we want to get to each and every one of you. Ken will be speaking to you. Please go ahead and work with Devin
to schedule that, and it will, believe me, be worth your time. Now, I wanted to also check. Do we have any comments or questions in the live?
Not that we haven't already answered. So we did have a couple questions. Basically, again, just more what happened with the merger. I think we've adequately answered, those
To the extent that
questions.
we can on this format,
Yeah,
yes.
to the extent you can. Again, current investors, get a hold of us, get some time in to be able to walk through more of the details and all those different types of things with Ken. But I mean, if there's a takeaway that I can give you guys, again, it's NASDAQ was a way to be able to secure funding that would have helped us to be able to scale. And the reality is that it turned into being something that wasn't ultimately beneficial for you as the investors, which is why we just had to pivot. And in the future, with all of the improvements and the continued optimizations that we're making on a business side and the growth that we're seeing on the business side are so much more exciting to look at from these new paradigms, which is why you guys got to talk to Ken. I don't just mean that lip service wise. It's really is an exciting time, and that's why I kind of said earlier, I don't want to feel like we're in the doldrums right now, because honestly, it's almost like we kind of got a second wind now that we can kind of take this kind of weight off and look and start really looking at how bright this future looks now that we can really start devoting even more capital into the business units to help everything grow and to help accelerate water on demand as a whole.
We're gonna now do what we've known how to do and wanted to do all along, but we're committed to a path that we've been unburdened.
I use that word, and I actually unburdened.
Well, that's why I repeated it.
I know.
Right. But we're gonna leave it at that. Just
We'll leave it at that.
Anyway,
just unburdened.
Just unburdened. But look, here's the most important thing. I think it was AJ that mentioned Boxable. Boxable raised hundreds of millions of dollars and went to NASDAQ because they were producing units and putting a couple thousand, not lots, okay? And they have a multi-$100 million market cap.
600. They only have 600
$600 million
units.
market cap.
Okay. No. 600 units is what they built
600
per their
units,
website.
that's it, right. That's a drop in the bucket. Now,
right.
With what water on demand can do, that would be first wave almost, after pilots. So the market opportunity for us using these magnificent basis of design implementations is almost limitless. And we're finally getting people who didn't know the solution existed. And then when they went, yeah, that's what happened to you today, Riggs. They're like, no, yeah, that, I want that.
And literally the party was like, let's go right now. We're going to, over the holidays. We're doing so many deals over the holidays right now. It's scary. And I'm going to leave it at that because I have a message to everyone. Thank you for everything you've done for us. Please communicate with us to get more information. But we're going to have a huge 2025. Happy holidays. And thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
Happy Hanukkah.
And happy
Kwanzaa.
No. It was the other one. It was Festivus.
Oh yeah, Merry Festivus. Yeah, it's a Festivus.
Festivus for the rest of us. Okay.
I literally saw a guy today with a Festivus shirt, and he was like, "Hey," and I was like, "Well done."
Young people would have no idea what I'm talking about.
Oh,
it's all good. It's all good. But anyway, thank you all. So the next briefing, of course, will be the third Thursday in January. It'll be the first of the year. So it'll be the 16th. The 16th of January is when we'll have the first of the year, and we'll have lots to discuss.
Hopefully, I'll see most of you well before then.
Yes, we want to use the break to just get everybody brought up to speed, understand. Okay, got it. This, that, we're set.
Which is code for Ken doesn't get a break.
Of course, but I'll be working too, so I'll be right there with you.
Yeah. You heard him say that, right?
I am.
It's on record. It's on tape.
It's on recording.
Yes.
My wife is going to Toronto, and I'm staying right in town here.
Oh, there you go.
I am having a Hanukkah break with our good friends the Lonsteins, so that's going to be very, very nice. Thank you all.
All right, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a good night, and Happy New Year to all of you.
Happy New Year, everybody. Happy holidays.
New Year. Take care.